What's going on, guys? Scopamar TV here, back with another video. Today we're going to talk about, is South Florida still livable? I'm living in South Florida, been living in South Florida for about 24 years now, right? And when I first came to South Florida, it was just a joke to some people. Why would you live in Fort Lauderdale? That's an old people town. That's where people go to retire. That's where people go to die. Blah, 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 blah. It's not New York. It's not LA. You have people running away from Florida to go to LA because they want to be a superstar, or they run away to New York because they want to be an actor and whatever. Now, everybody comes to South Florida. Everybody comes to Miami. What happens when there's a high demand? Prices go crazy. Let's watch and see some of the things that's been going on with people in South Florida regarding the high prices.
In and out of buses in downtown Miami every morning.
Downgrading the vehicles, whatever you need to do to cut down your prices.
This mother of three changed her wheels to cut down on expenses, but she didn't cut down on her strong spirit for her kids.
You look like you're crying and struggling, they're gonna feel it, and that's gonna pass on to them. So I don't want them to feel that pressure. That's that's what we need to deal with.
And she's not alone in her struggle. A United Way of Florida study shows that around 40 to 63% of households in Miami-Dade and Broward
43% single and cohabitating. 44.5 families with children, and 63% 65 and older. So there's a lot of people that are single and cohabitating. You know what I'm saying? You have a lot of families with people that can't buy houses, so they can't move out from their families that they grew up with, like mom, dad, older kids in their 20s, 30s. They can't buy a house.
Broward struggle to pay for basic needs like housing, childcare, and transportation.
For 2 years, I was homeless.
This 70-year-old man said he lived on the streets after a disability forced him to retire.
You get to a point where if you can't work,
You're on the streets.
And even when he was working, he says it was difficult.
Barely enough for a place to stay in a motel. And then I had to beg, borrow, and steal to get them to come down on the rate so I could afford it. I had no money for food. I had to go to food banks to eat.
Housing costs going up.
If you live in South Florida and you ain't got a side hustle, you're gonna feel the pain. You're gonna feel the pain. The pain is unbearable, man. It's unbearable. If you're not hustling in South Florida, if you're not going out there and trying to find side work, side hustles, yeah, it's gonna be hard. So there's a lot of people in South Florida that has moved out of the state. Some people move halfway, some people move to Georgia. A lot of people from South Florida, the original South Floridians, they have moved on to North Carolina and South Carolina simply because it is too expensive. Especially if you are older, on a fixed income, they cannot survive the inflation in South Florida. It is horrible, no doubt about it.
it's no secret that rent in Miami is getting up there, but these are three cities in South Florida that are actually more expensive. At number 3, we have Fort Lauderdale, where the average rent is $2,684. At number 2, we have Delray, where the
$2,684. That is crazy. Just imagine, mortgages are that price, and people are paying rent at that price. It's not because they want to, but just because that's what they have to do to survive. Some people might say, okay, why not get up and leave? It is very difficult just to uproot your life and move somewhere else, especially when that's where you grow up your entire life. It's hard to just get out there and throw a fishing rod and hope that you catch a big fish out there. It's not that easy. It's not that easy at all, you know?
where the average rent is $2,830. And at number 1, we have none other than Boca, where the average rent is $2,882.
$2,882 just to live in Boca? Boca. I think not. I think not.
Now, I don't know how true this is, but apparently Florida is now the most expensive state to live in. And as somebody that lives in Florida, let's go ahead and talk about it. Now, when I saw this, trending on Facebook, a lot of people in the comments were talking about, oh, I guess they've never been to California. And as somebody that's lived in San Diego for 3 years, let me go ahead and show you the comparison as to why I can see this being accurate. So I'm going to be using averages. In the state of California, the average rent is $2,800. Now, I know everybody doesn't pay that, but that's why I said we're going to use averages, all right? Some people pay less, some people pay more. Now, in the state of Florida, we're looking at an average rent of about $2,500 per month, which, between Florida and California, there's only a $300 difference. So what is making Florida the most expensive state in? And I can tell you it's because of the income. Now, this is straight off of Forbes website. The average salary in California is $73,220 yearly. However, as of May 24, 2024, the average annual salary in Florida is $49,122. So if we're
$49,000. That's crazy, man. That's crazy. They keep raising the rates on people in Florida, rent rates, insurance rates, and you're not making any money. That is what goes back to what I was saying earlier. If you're not hustling, if you're not getting your side gigs and putting in the work, right? You guys are going to feel the burn. You guys are going to feel the pain. No doubt about it. One thing that I've realized in South Florida, their homes that are not being built anymore because you have the Everglades. So they're not going west anymore. They're going up. So there's a lot of high rises in South Florida that has gone up within the past 5-6 years. It looks and is starting to look like New York City. It is starting to look like major cities where they're building high rises. And some of these places are empty because they can't afford the rent. There are people moving in, but I'm thinking that they're building these places with the expectation that a lot of people are going to move here to South Florida. And that's the only available housing. So they have no choice but to rent. Rent is being promoted in South Florida. Debt is being promoted in South Florida. There's a certain lifestyle that even these influencers try to push on people to live in South Florida. People come here and say, oh, well, I'm in Miami in an apartment in Brickell, and look at me, I'm driving a fast car and I'm so rich. Most of that stuff is a lie. People are selling a dream. People are selling an idea of what it is to live in South Florida, and that's not what true South Floridians do. You know what I'm saying? Not to say that there aren't people that's rich and they like the sunshine and whatever, they drop the top on their car, but the real everyday average people, they're just trying to get by because the pay scale is not keeping up with the cost of the inflation. And that to me is a major problem. So if you plan on moving to South Florida, best believe if you're not a top surgeon, some doctor, big lawyer, and you gotta be making at least $150 and up by yourself. If you're not making that, or if you make it together with your partner, that's good. That's the only way you're not gonna somewhat feel it. But at the end of the day, we'll see where all this goes. Politics have a lot to play with in this, but we don't make the rules. We'll see what happens. But let me know what you guys think. Do you guys believe South Florida is too expensive to live at the moment? Drop a comment, drop a subscribe. Until next time, Scope of Mart TV, I'm out.